Jojo doesn't get any nerves facing Bjergsen. Like, yeah, for Bjergsen is just another guy for Jojo. I think he has more fun playing Bjergsen because people like will care more, so there's a bit more of a spotlight on it. But I definitely don't have to like calm Jojo down because he's playing Bjergsen. Jojo doesn't care who he plays.
This is Zento from Esports Heaven, and I have here with me Artemis from Evil Geniuses. I wanted to talk a little bit about just your team and get a little bit of update because in kind of the mid-season or MSI and also spring, there was large discussions around the EG bot lane and maybe a weakness in laning phase and stuff. And I think now we're largely seeing that shored up a bit. Talk to me about Danny and Vulcan and maybe their progression, and especially in like the laning phase part.
Yeah, I think Danny and Phil's improvement is a result of two things. I think, first of all, I think MSI was a tremendous learning experience for all the guys, but for Danny, being able to feel just the skill level of international ball lanes and start to get punished in new ways and see matchups played in new ways, just like him and Jojo both, I think, just improved tremendously just as a result of that practice. And I think on top of that, also Phil and Danny's relationship just naturally has gotten stronger. And as you get more comfortable as a duo, you get more comfortable giving feedback, receiving feedback, and kind of figuring out how you can work with the other person or get them to work with you. So I think that the more they play together and the more they work together, they've just gotten more comfortable like teaching each other basically. And as that like information share has gotten easier, they've been able to get on the same page and they've been able to kind of like figure out how exactly they want to play all their different matchups.
Mm-hmm. So talk to me about maybe the idea of getting to, you know, the extra 5%. So there's this concept that whenever you learn a new profession or a new skill or anything, the first, 70% of being proficient at that skill is quite easy. You're just learning the basics, etc. But as you get higher and higher up to be more skilled at that job, the percentages are harder to get and to master. So, and I feel like EG now from the spring split headed into the summer split, okay, you guys did the 80, the 90%, now it's that extra 10%. How do you access that, especially as a coach trying to coax them into, learning that extra 10%?
Yeah, I think it's super complicated. The improvement process, has a ton of different variables, and I think what you're getting at is we kind of see improvement in like two ways. You see improvement like all at once, where like the team kind of like you see like a team has a breakthrough and like they improve like a lot, like drastically in a short amount of time, and you see like week over week improvement. And also improvement can happen like a lot slower, where it's just like a slow grind, like you're grinding out every week, and week by week you're getting just like 1 or 2% better, but not enough to really notice. And eventually you'll kind of hit a breakthrough where you'll improve a lot quickly, and then you'll probably plateau again. So for us, we really need to zoom out and think about where we are in our season. What are we seeing in practice? Are we improving quickly? Are we improving slowly? Are we stagnating? Are we getting worse? Mm-hmm. Identify where in that improvement cycle you are, and then think about where you are in your season, and then think about where you want to be in 2 months, right? So all of that put together, what we're seeing right now is the latter form of improvement, where it's not like we're improving like huge bounds at a time, but we are improving like bit by bit each week. And I think it's more of a maintenance phase for us than anything else. Like we improved a ton in a short amount of time at MSI because one, the intensity, like we were practicing with much more intensity than we would typically, and also we're playing games of a lot higher intensity than we normally would. So in that sprint, you end up improving a lot in a short amount of time. And when we've come back, it's all about maintaining what we've had. Coasting is the wrong word, but managing to get through this regular season without a lot of variance in our improvement cycle, kind of maintain this, and then decide when we want to sprint, so probably sometime in playoffs, and then eventually really turn it on.
Sure. So I want to get your take on, I guess, what's been going on all around the league, because there's been all these weird roster changes. There's been all these different moves like mid-season. Even when you consider just going from spring to summer, there's been roster changes as well. how do you view that from your take? Because EG has this strong roster and everything, but now you're seeing the field change. How does that change the way that you operate, or maybe how you prep for certain teams or whatnot?
I mean, it doesn't change anything in the slightest. Like, I think a big trap you can fall into is focusing too much on other people, and we're really laser focused on ourselves. So, like, teams making roster changes, like, it's on your radar, and, like, you need to have some general awareness of what other people are doing, but at the end of the day, that does not matter for us. Like, we don't care. Like, nobody on EG cares at all about these roster decisions or players moving up and down from academy to LCS. Problems, rumors in management and coaching, like, all of that is just noise. And yeah, like, on the team side, it would be a big trap if you were spending time focusing on anyone else other than yourself. So we really don't concern ourselves with these things.
Yeah. So speaking of another thing that maybe you do or don't concern yourself with, which is Worlds coming to North America, that must be a lot of pressure, and especially on the coaching staff. How do you handle that? How do you look at Worlds in North America and not think, okay, it's not a big deal if we bomb out in Worlds, or the pressure to make Worlds that's got to be tremendous.
Yeah, I think coaches ride that fine line between you're aware of the organizational pressure because it's a performance industry, and at the end of the day, if you're not getting results, then you're not going to stay as a coach. It's a results-based industry at the end of the day. So there is an awareness of that, but on the other hand, it's important that never really permeates the practice environment or the team environment, because that is not a great way to motivate somebody to perform at a high level. Like,
Sure.
When you think of a tournament like Worlds, players are putting so much importance on this tournament. Like, the stakes don't need to get any higher. Like, for them, this is it, right? So our job isn't to say, guys, Worlds is in NA, like, we really got to make it. Like, they know, and obviously they don't care about that. So it's tricky, and you have to trust that the processes that you own and the work you do is enough, because at the end of the day, yeah, it's a results-based industry, and your processes could be perfect, and you could do a fantastic job as a coach, and you ultimately, if you miss Worlds, that's all that matters, right? It's the results is what counts at the end of the day. So yeah, it's sort of like comparing yourself to other people. Like, you do need, like, a general awareness of this, like, overarching structure and, like, how your organizational feels like the 3 or the 5 year plan. Like, yeah, you want to be tapped into where you are in that, and it's important to know that this is a sprint, but at the same time, you don't want to focus on it because it's not going to help you perform in your job.
Yeah. So finally, I want to get your take on Team Liquid. I believe you face them next week. What are your thoughts about this? And more specifically, I want to get your thoughts on Jojopyun versus Bjergsen. That is obviously a narrative, but at the end of the day, how do you keep the nerves of someone like Jojopyun down when facing a legendary player like Bjergsen?
Jojo doesn't get any nerves facing Bjergsen. Yeah, for Bjergsen is just another guy for Jojo. I think he has more fun playing Bjergsen because people, like, will care more, so there's a bit more of a spotlight on it, but I definitely don't have to, like, calm Jojo down because he's playing Bjergsen. Jojo doesn't care who he plays. I think Team Liquid, though, is interesting when you look at a team with a bunch of superstars on it that is underperforming or not winning against teams you'd expect them to win against. Obviously, you're going to start asking questions about what's happening behind the scenes. And from the outside looking in, all I can see is they're putting a ton of pressure on themselves. You heard from, in this week six interlude today, you heard from Hans Sama a lot, talking about all the pressure he was putting on himself and kind of like this internal pressure that he was feeling. Not to mention probably all the pressure that's coming in of having a $10 million roster and being with all these superstars on a super team. So it's both, right? Like, the guys are putting pressure on themselves, but there's also pressure coming from the outside. So it seems like a challenging environment, and I'm not surprised that they're having cohesion issues. I think that it's got to be a tricky environment to manage, and without any more information, you can't really talk about if it's being managed poorly or if it's being managed well. But we can see what we can see, right? And that appears to be some coordination issues with Team Liquid and a really high pressure, high stakes environment. So yeah, all that being said, it's just another game for us. Like I think they might be making it out to be more than it is. Like I think them and 100 Thieves both kind of have some chip on their shoulder against EG, but for us, they're just another team. And if anything, it should be more of a challenge than we normally get to face on the weekend. So like we're looking forward to it in that sense because we might get to play some nice League of Legends, but that ultimately is up to them. So we'll kind of see what kind of league they show up with that day.
Well, good. So Team Liquid is another team, just another team, and Bjergsen is just another player. Well, this has been Azento from Esports Heaven and Artemis from Evil Geniuses. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.